Isn't that lovely? That is the Phoenix River Band, a local English band that I came across with guitarist Robert Craven, who runs the GYDA.co, Grow Your Own Digital Agency. It is 1 o'clock. It's Friday, and that means it is time to welcome you to the Sustack Plans Chat Club, where we talk about AI innovation and ethics in marketing and business for 30 minutes every Friday. I'm PR Smith, the founder and author of Sustack Planning, and I'm delighted to say we have Reggie Johnson, all the way from Texas, Fort Worth, who is the Director of Communications for Student Affairs at UNT Health. Reggie, good morning to you.
Good morning, Paul. How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. We are suffering a heat wave. I can't remember any rain this summer over here in London yet.
Oh, wow.
And it's really, really hot. I'm just looking up the temperature as we speak. It is, well, it's 32 now. What's it like? What's it going to be when you peak today in Texas?
Probably about 103, obviously Fahrenheit. So it's pretty, a little bit more, but that's pretty warm because I bet a lot of people in London don't have air conditioning, right?
No, we don't. In my house, we don't. We're installing fans left, right, and center. So, it's a strange way. Well, my biggest concern, of course, is the farmers. You know, their yield is going to be way, way, way down, and the impact that's going to have on cost of living and everybody having a tough time. So we'll see. But anyways, we are. Other people are enjoying it. You know, the evenings are beautiful here in London, I have to say. And when I'm in Ireland, which I am fairly regularly, well, the water is fantastic. So anyways, let's get on and just see what we're going to talk about today. We're going to kick off with the big news of Meta's AI manifesto, followed by some Meta items, such as threatening New Mexico with withdrawing Meta services, followed by Meta lobby bots seem to be emerging. We'll have a look at that and see if that's true. And then the big shocker is Meta glasses turning women into content. I mean, this is really shocking stuff, but we'll get to that. Fortunately, the AI disclosure is now in law in the EU, and it might trickle around the world. We've got Claude's invisible watermark, seems to be ahead of schedule or on schedule. And then we're going to look at chatbot-free childhood status symbol. That is, being chatbot free might become a status symbol for kids. And we finish off with a couple of positive items as well, of course, some free courses for you and some virtual worlds news. But we wanted to kick off first and foremost with, Meta's AI manifesto. Sounds like good news, Reggie, but can you give us a quick headline on what's about?
Yeah, so Meta released their 6,000-word manifesto, Mark Zuckerberg's statement on how the future is bright and AI is going to democratize everything, and there'll be privacy and all kinds of positive words thrown in, like governance, oversight, trust, concentration, the dangers of extreme concentration of power, all the things that you would hope that would be talked about, and that you might consider to be something of the opposite of what we're seeing with tech bros. Saurabh El-Feliz talked about this in a post and was a little bit cynical, because we have seen some of these kinds of things before, where tech bros have written out manifestos. They've used all the right words, but maybe it's been a lot of sugar and not enough action on it. I don't know. Yeah. What do you think? You've looked at this manifesto.
I have. I haven't directly. I did read Saurabh El-Feliz's piece, and I really admire her work. And we've interviewed her here on our chat. So she's definitely worth a read, and we'll put a link to it on prsmith.org/blog. But in the context of Meta's, what would you say? Well, it's manifesto, it's kind of ethical grounds and shouting for joy and so on. In contrast with that, if you have a look at Meta, they're now threatening to withdraw their services from New Mexico because New Mexico has asked Meta to comply with their safety rules and pay, by the way, almost $1 billion. So this is kind of disturbing. Kelly Stonelake wrote a really interesting piece, asking the question that Meta condemned again for its failure to protect children, because they've been asked to fix and change and make it more safe for kids. That Meta's response is, well, they've threatened to withdraw from New Mexico State entirely rather than comply with its safety rules. And they're saying that complying is untenable. And it's extraordinary stuff, but, it kind of contradicts what we're hearing. And then we've kind of discovered that, by the way, Kelly Stonelake, in her article, she says at the end, this is or in her video as well, she says this is only the beginning. So it does seem there is a movement, a momentum building up, kind of anti-Meta at the moment with the way they're behaving. But Meta have also been involved with lobby bots. Or is this true, or is it just a rumor, Reggie, the lobby bots?
Well, this was an interesting video by Nikki Petrosi, a safety advocate for kids, and she pointed out that in articles where she demonstrated this in her video. There was an article posting on Instagram about Meta being held liable for harming kids, and in the comments there were quite a few comments. And every now and then there'd be a comment that say, blame the parents, not Meta. Don't blame Meta, blame the parents for letting them do this. Just kind of real succinct, pointed, blame the parents. And what was interesting is she went and showed how those comments, when you went and you looked at who commented, it was a brand new account with a profile photo and no previous posts and not a lot of friends and pretty much all the hallmarks of a bot, and not a well done one at that, because there are lots of bot accounts out there that look very polished. You get these friend requests on LinkedIn and you might have a hard time telling whether it's a bot or not, but these ones were very clearly all the hallmark signs of bots. And Sarah Evans wrote about this and about how this was an interesting. Oh, sorry, this was Nikki Petrosi. We're still talking about Nikki Petrosi's item, and this is just interesting to ask the question: who's paying for these bots to come on when we talk about Meta being held liable, and to say no, it's the parents' fault, not Meta's fault? Who's paying for that?
That's she's got it bang on there. That looks very dodgy to me, and it gets worse with Meta. Go back to the manifesto, which is this joyous 6,000 words, honorable sort of direction in which Meta is going in. Well, there's a piece that caught my eye about Meta glasses turning women into content. I'm going to say that again. It's an extraordinary statement, this. Meta glasses turn women into content, ? You can ask, is this possible? Now, Siobhan McDermott wrote a piece about this, and it's really, really beautifully written. I mean, if nothing else, the journalistic skills are quite excellent, I think, because she's written in a haunting, yet intriguing, yet personal and explanative way. So she says, Meta built the glasses. Meta owns the platform. Meta runs the algorithm. And women are being turned into content inside all three. So a new preprint reviewed 350 Instagram videos in which men approached women in public or semi-public places, often while wearing the smart glasses. And the researchers found that the more covert the filming appeared to be, the more serious the harassment was likely to be. So yeah, this is really heavy stuff.
They felt emboldened by the covertness.
They felt emboldened. Well said, yeah. Now, Siobhan McDermott goes on to say, but think about this. Your daughter, your mother, your sister, your wife. A woman is walking home or sitting outside a cafe or working in a store or trying to leave a bar, whatever it is. And a man approaches her and records her without meaningful awareness or consent on her part and refuses to leave, then posts the encounter and wait for it, then turns her discomfort into a first-person entertainment product. What kind of a world is Meta building here? And then Instagram does the rest. The audience is invited into the man's point of view. The comments judge the woman for rejecting him. The clip is recommended. Her fear becomes engagement. Her humiliation becomes a format. So the research found that 93% plus of the sample post left comments open. So they want this engagement around this harassing women, creating what the researchers called a digital afterlife of misogynistic commentary after the real world encounter has actually ended, which is bad enough, but then it has another life in this world. So this is about a company creating a seamless pipeline. And Siobhan goes on to say a seamless pipeline, which looks like this: covert capture, platform distribution, algorithmic amplification, monetized harassment. That's what we're talking about here. So she finishes with, let's stop pretending the problem is a few bad actors. Meta has the device. Meta has the footage. Meta has the account history. Meta has the recommendation system. Meta has the moderation tools. And Meta gets the revenue. So what it does not appear to have is a system that treats a woman's consent as more valuable than a man's content. That's so
And you
beautifully said. I'm going to repeat that.
repeat it,
So,
yeah.
yeah, Meta has a system that treats a woman's consent as more valuable than a man's content. No, it doesn't have a system that treats a woman's consent as more valuable than a man's content. So this is serious stuff. And when Meta claim about innovation and AI and, its manifesto and all the rest of it, it's time to stop calling this innovation. So I really recommend people have a read of this, because it's kind of shocking stuff. Okay,
You know what
so
would be great, Paul, would be
yeah,
if they could actually use the content to catch perpetrators of harassment in these situations, because a lot of what they're doing is actually illegal,
yeah,
or women can file lawsuits and use the content to show as evidence and to pinpoint the person who's responsible for this and say, look, here's the proof of the harassment, here's who did it, here's their
yeah,
account, and
yeah,
here's the provenance for what it was. And it's a cruel world when it comes to engagement. I saw a video with some people on a volcano in Indonesia that they had been told not to hike on because it was an active volcano. They had banned people from hiking on it, yet guides were still taking people up there because Westerners were going there for online content, the local authorities said. And a video showed people getting blown up at the top of the volcano as it erupted, and a guide says, oh my God, it's killed them. They died. And the people that were going up there to capture this content of this active volcano got turned into the content themselves by somebody else videoing them trying to capture
uh,
content.
uh,
And this is kind of reminds me of Soylent Green, and those kinds of things where it's like the people that are trying to gather content, if it doesn't work out, they're getting turned into the content. It's a very cruel and callous world. And to turn a woman's discomfort at harassment into a piece of content to get
content.
engagement on, it's the
Yeah,
same kind of a thing where there's just this callous
yeah,
drive for engagement. And that's
yeah.
really disturbing for our humanity. And it's monetized and supported by Meta.
Yeah, it's appalling. You're right, Reggie. But you've triggered another thought. Here's a great opportunity for Meta. So any Meta people that see this, please listen to this idea. Literally come off the hoof from your thoughts there, Reggie. Why don't you, Meta, when you see this harassment, send it to the police, and see if they'll open up a case? And wouldn't it be nice if harassers just continue to feed Meta with a system that fed into the police to make complaints on behalf of, or maybe they could put a note up to say this has been sent to the police, so that the sufferer might be able to follow up as well if they said which police station, which department, and so on and so forth. That wouldn't be that difficult to do. I'm sure they could open up, and they'd be doing, digital for good and AI for good, wouldn't it? And social for
They had
good.
an ad. They had an ad that was suggesting that people could use Facebook's Periscope-like feature to pinpoint a harassing man on a subway. This was a few years ago. There was an ad
Yeah,
where they were like, had a gentleman who was and they made this big noble statement about men stopping acting like jerks, and this
yeah,
guy was harassing this woman, and it was like, you videoing me? And it was like, no, it's Facebook Live, Facebook Periscope. So if there are any police at this particular subway stop, this is where this guy is going to be getting off. And it made them seem all noble and like they were for women, but it was all just a bunch of theater. I mean, it didn't mean
yeah,
anything ultimately, right? I mean, it feels
yeah,
like.
yeah. Well, we wouldn't want that, but yeah. Well, let be innovative, Mr. Meta. Be innovative and tell us how you could use this for good and to help people rather than harass them. So, in fact, it's interesting that I really do believe we need laws and regulations and protection from ourselves and from AI and from social media and all the rest of it. And we're beginning to see that roll out in America and elsewhere. I'm very pleased to say that AI disclosure is now a law in the European Union and the UK. Well, it's effective in the UK. So this is AI disclosure becoming law in the EU. It's called Article 50, and it has an impact on anybody in the world of marketing. Now, a very interesting post was written by Tausif Sarwar, and he kind of announced this and says that the three shifts that marketers need to watch right now are, because of this new act, is essentially, number one, agents are deemed now to have moved into production, and disclosure becomes a legal duty. And thirdly, the skill gaps is emerging. People don't know how to deal with this new Article 50. So, a support chatbot really should open with the line now that says you are chatting with an AI assistant. Hi, I'm Paul. I'm your AI assistant, or I am you declare who you are. Excuse me. Or an AI generated hero image. You know, that hero image is the main headline image in a post or an ad or whatever. That it must carry the machine readable mark, which tools should be able to generate. And an AI draft, say a thought leadership post that a human would actually only edit, but has been generated by AI, again, can carry similar announcements. So this is interesting because we've talked about agents a lot, and what I liked about Tassif Sarwar's article is that he looks quite a bit at agents moving from being chatbots to teammates. So he assumes that a lot of marketers have stopped using AI for single questions. They now hand it a goal, and the AI runs the steps. So an agent logs into your tools, moves data between them, drafts the reply, updates the CRM, and flags the exceptions that you would want to double check and approve humanly. So your work shifts from a task you complete to really a playbook that the agent repeats, the playbook that you write for it. So treating agents like a junior teammate, well, the agent needs clear instructions, a defined scope and a review gate and all of that. So for a marketing team, these changes mean that your day might start to look like an agent. It can triage or sort out and prioritize the shared inbox, tag the comments, identify which ones are more important than others, route leads, rank them, assemble a first draft campaign brief from your brief template, pull the numbers into a weekly support, and run a pre-published QA, quality assurance check against your brand rules, we'll say. So you move from doing the steps to designing the steps and checking the output. So what we're actually happening is kind of a human's putting input into the bot, but it's a bot that's doing all this. And it's good to know if this is happening. So the guardrails are kind of manifesting themselves in different ways right now, but it's not enough just saying, a human will sign this off. We need to let people know what's going on. So AI disclosure is now a legal duty since Article 50 of the EU AI Act came in on the 2nd of August, 2026. And it sets transparency duties in 4 situations. Number 1, you must tell people when they interact with an AI system, such as a chatbot or a voice assistant. Number 2, AI-generated image, video, or audio, or text must be marked as AI created and detectable for a machine. Number 3 is deepfakes must be disclosed. You can't put your head on somebody else's head and make a video and send it out. You must disclose this now. And 4 is AI-generated text published to inform the public on matters of public interest must be labeled as AI created. Now, non-compliance, you could look at a fine of 15 million euros or 3% of your worldwide annual turnover, whichever is higher. Now, we've seen this before with data breaches and so on and so forth. So these are very real penalties. So these checks need to be built into the workflow, to ensure that you are announcing this is AI generated. It's not just something you add on at the end. Build it into the workflow. So it's not a disclaimer that's bolted on, but build it into the workflow steps. You add a provenance line to your campaign. And even right down to recording which model is made which asset is quite useful to do. So to summarize, if you run a chatbot, or if you generate ad creative with AI, or publish AI written articles, as a marketer, you are usually the deployer, and the deployer duties will apply to you. So this AI Act will be directly relevant to you. So we put a link to this on prsmith.org/blog. Some platforms will help you do this. In the case of Claude's invisible watermark, Reggie.
Yes. So with Claude's invisible watermark, I'm just going to interject real quick that Robin Davis had a comment, and he said that the thing about these lawsuits is they cost so much money, they take so much time. So Meta and other companies like that are counting on the fact that most people won't bother. So another opportunity for the law to be more real-time responsive is to have just like a flat $1 billion charge per incident, or whatever the fee might be, and you hold it in escrow until proven. So it's just like a flat, fee for a particular incident, and just automatically apply the penalty without having to go through all of those tedious steps.
Yes.
And put the burden on somebody else to have that kind of money to battle them in court. Interesting.
That's a fair comment. What I have noticed in the States is more alliances coming together. So there's like about 5 American states coming together, going after Meta on the child safety issue at the moment. So that would divide their costs and overhead by 5, I'm guessing. So, the more they come together will help as well. But good point, Reggie. I take that. So tell us about Claude's invisible watermark.
Yeah, so Claude announced is they're working with this mandate that you just talked about with the EU. Is that they're putting an invisible watermark in their text, and this is interesting because how do they put an invisible watermark in their text? Well, Anthropic released this announcement, and what they specifically said is it's an embedded watermark when it generates text that is imperceptible, directly woven into the text itself. You won't see it. It doesn't change the meaning or the quality or the readability of the Claude's response. But the watermark is part of the text, and it will travel with the text even when it's copied and pasted elsewhere. So it's really not something that you can like extract in terms of or remove because you can't see it. But it doesn't survive heavy paraphrasing or editing. It may not survive certain other things, like if you screenshot text and then extract it using from an image, it won't necessarily survive that. So there are some interesting side effects where it's not foolproof, but it does leave a provenance trail. And also it's embedded when it comes to imagery and other kinds of files generated. It uses a different method, which is signed provenance metadata with the C2PA standard. And that's a little bit more like just the metadata with the file. So these are a couple things that Claude is implementing in the EU spaces with their models in the EU in order to help comply with those laws. Sarah Evans talked about this in a post, and she wrote one of the things that you really need to do, 3 things for your company, especially as you look at your executives writing content, your CEO and whatnot. Write your disclosure policy. So what counts as AI use, what gets disclosed, who signs off. That's the policy for your company. Tell your execs what proof looks like. So if they drafted it, the receipts, timestamps, revision history, like you were talking about, you need to make sure you've noted what you've done so that you can prove, if needed, that the content was yours. And then write the holding statement now, such as our executives write their own content. We use AI tools for editing and research. Here's our policy. That's really important because what's going to happen, as she points out, is that somebody may take an executive's article and run it through one of these scanners that we talked about, that are going to start showing up everywhere to scan for this particular invisible watermark. And we'll say, hey, this CEO's article was written by AI. Well, that's kind of misleading. It may have just been tightened up a little with AI. It might have had some ideas generated with AI, and the tags still been kept in there. So there are some ways where you can see the problem being sometimes people tend to portray AI as an all or nothing. Either it was written by AI or it was written by a human. And there's a lot of in between, which is where the real usefulness of AI fits, in that in between space, not the all or nothing. And so this is where you might have your CEO or your executives, if they aren't aware, end up in a situation where they look like they have egg on their face because it's like they were caught using AI to write an important letter or editorial. So being aware of that and making sure that we have a holding statement that says our executives use AI for editing, and you can point to that, editing and research, but they write their own content. That's become all the more important now as we look at provenance and being able to defend your own authenticity.
Yeah, nice one. Well, we'll watch out for that now, and we'll see. Can you actually see? You won't see the invisible watermark, but we'll watch out for documents and photos, whether any of the companies and the individuals are actually adding anything on top of that that's visible to the human eye. So we'll have the invisible one, but we'll also be looking to see if there's a visible effort made, which would be very, very interesting. Equally interesting, Reggie, is this idea of a chatbot-free childhood might become a status symbol. Now, this was written up by Dana Susskind in The Atlanta on the 7th of August. So it's just a week ago. But she talks about this. The human brain has evolved to learn from specific instructors. So when a child hears a gentle spoken word or a soothing lullaby, or when their cry is responded to physically, by being lifted up or hugged, their brain, the child's brain lights up. nurturing interactions, or what child development experts call serve and return exchanges, this helps to shape and strengthen, and wait for this number, helps to shape and strengthen the 1 million new neural connections taking place in a child's brain every single second. Now, I can't absorb that information personally. That's just extraordinary if that's true. My goodness. But anyways, what it's saying is that every time a child cries or serves up a bid for attention, or gets or receives a caregiver's response, that sort of back and forth builds the circuits underlying their communication, their learning, their emotional well-being. So no other input, not even Johann Pachelbel's Canon in D performed by the Berlin Philharmonic, is capable of activating the neural circuitry the way human interaction does until now. And we're at a point now where generative AI may be the first technology in the history that's so sophisticated it can mimic the social interactions that mimic our brains. So research has demonstrated that infants as young as 6 months old respond physiologically to interactions with humanoid robots in ways that mirror their response to live humans. So what does that mean? Well, this made me immediately think of Facebook, that book. I don't have it to hand in front of me, but I normally do. It is a great read. Oh, here it is. Careless People. The kind of insight by Sarah Wynne Williams at executive level, board level, Zuckerberg level, about what went on Facebook. And it reminded me of the fact that she says in this book that when she referred to Sheryl Sandberg, who's now left and gone off on her own, but she said that Sandberg, like most leaders at Facebook who had younger children, they severely limit her kids' access to screens, let alone social media accounts. And she never, ever shares images of her children on social media. So Silicon Valley is a whoosh in the wooden Montessori toys and shrouded in total screen bans. And parents at work talk about how they don't allow their teens to have mobile phones, which only underscores how well these executives understand the real damage their products inflict on young minds. So it just made me think of that. So perhaps the forward-thinking AI creators are thinking similarly and saying that, a chat-free childhood is A, good for kids, and B, it may even become a status symbol for families. Our children are AI neutral, or chatbot free. Our children are chatbot free. And that could be a status symbol. We should see. It's not so long ago. I think it was the 90s when in Japan it became much of a status symbol for senior CEOs applying for jobs. The job ad would have in small print at the bottom, "No mobile," which meant, here's the job description. And by the way, it's such a senior job, you're not obliged to carry a mobile around and be contactable 24/7. So the no mobile was kind of prestigious in Japan, executives for a while. So now we might see no AI as being prestigious, or no bots as prestigious. It's a fast changing world, Reggie. There's no doubt about it. I think we'll save our little chat about incarnation in virtual worlds for next week, if that's okay with you. Mo Goddat's masterpiece. Yeah. We'll finish now with just an announcement that there's another 10 free AI courses that we've discovered. These ones are built by NVIDIA. We'll put a link to them. They're more slightly leaning towards the more technical side, so it wouldn't be from me personally, but we thought we should keep you abreast with what's out there. So in addition to the other free courses we've kind of pasted and alerted you to, here's 10 free AI courses from NVIDIA, which we'll put them up on prsmith.org/blog. It is, and we've been working really hard, Reggie and myself, to try and end before 1:30 UK time. So we've managed to do it. So let's play out with the Phoenix River Band, a really beautiful piece again. And Edith Walton, I look forward to chatting with you. We put everything on prsmith.org/blog. All the best for now. Farewell, Reggie. Have a good one. See you next week.
See ya.